So welcome to the Life Jacket Harmonization Session. I'm Tom Dardis. I'm the Recreational Boating Safety Outreach Coordinator here in this Boating Safety Division. So you're all asking yourself, why is life jacket harmonization important to us all? Despite the abundance of PFDs and our combined safety efforts, recreational boaters continue to drown. In 2024, where the cause of death was known, 76% of fatal boating incidents, the victim drowned. Of those, 87% were not wearing a PFD. The most recent National Life Jacket Wear Rate Observational Study from 2024 shows life jacket wear rates for all boaters, both adult and youth, at 21.9%. So looking both at the statistics and the life jacket study, it's pretty clear that 87% of boaters do not wear their life jacket. Some background on our program. The Boating Safety Division has had a strategic plan as far back as 2007 in modern times. Strategic plans of 2007 touched on a willingness to wear life jackets. The strategic plan of 2012 talked about continuously improving life jacket testing and approval standards. The 2017 strategic plan talked about increasing adult life jacket wear rates above this pretty much stagnant 87%. And the most recent, the 2022 strategic plan, encouraged the wear of life jackets by new device acceptance, which is what we're all here to talk about today, and also the introduction of youth inflatables, which will be totally foreign in the United States market because up until recently, only persons over 16 years of age were able to wear an inflatable life jacket, but that's going to change with the harmonized standards. Another thing we have going for us is the National Boating Safety Advisory Committee. The committee, since at least as early as 2006, through resolutions, has asked the Coast Guard take up the charge to harmonize the previous standards into the harmonized standard between us and Canada. The first resolution in 2006, and what we most know about, is the harmonized label. So that was done first in about 2010, and that was to reclassify and simplify the PFD labeling process. 2009, there was a resolution for improved regulatory approach to the testing and approval of PFDs. That's also being covered under the harmonized standards. And they also wanted further to transition to a new consolidated North American standard, again, the harmonized standards. The most recent resolution in 2022 was to transition to the new consolidated North American standard and give proper consideration to the acceptance of alternate life jackets and other buoyant devices. We found historically, and why this is important through harmonization, again, going back to all the great work that we've all done to increase voluntary life jacket wear, is that there's still a reluctance, specifically when not required by regulation, as in, for children under 13 or PWC wear, that adult boaters are still reluctant, shown by the 87% of drowners, to voluntarily wear life jackets. One of the big things is that they, through surveys, such as previously mentioned, the National Recreational Boating Safety Survey and other surveys, is that life jackets are uncomfortable to wear, don't allow a large range of movement, and that if we were to just allow more comfortable life jackets, that the acceptance of the device and the wear device would become greater than what it is now. So since 2006, the Coast Guard Office of Life Saving and Fire Safety has been working diligently to allow these harmonized PFDs to come to market. Most recently, the life jacket harmonization approval in the Federal Register of 2023 finally adopted and added a new subpart for the level 100 devices and also the level 50 and 70 devices. We believe that with the final approval of level 50 devices, that we will drive the voluntary wear of these more comfortable devices by the boating public, especially as we see with the paddlers, the increase to currently 27% we're hoping that with the availability of the new level 50 devices once approved for sale in the United States and Canada, that we'll be able to drive down paddling fatalities, because we believe that the paddlers will voluntarily, especially stand-up boarders, will voluntarily accept the new level 50 devices, which are much more comfortable and less of a heat burden when worn. One of the biggest changes that I believe will be talked about with my segment next will be the youth inflatables. Youth inflatables is new to the United States market. It's going to be a learning curve. We, as both boating safety advocates and also state law enforcement and state regulators, will have to figure out how we're going to deal with these new youth inflatables once they hit the market. Currently, if you look at the CG mix, which is the Maritime Information and Exchange, that has been spoken about a few times in previous segments, 2 devices have been approved to the level 100 standard under the new harmonized standard. Those were both youth and child life jackets. There's been approximately 81 inherently buoyant level 70 devices. And currently there are 8 inflatable recreational devices approved to the level 70 standard. The Boating Safety Division continues to, through the nonprofit grant program, provide boating safety advocacy and information to the boating public. Currently, in this year, there are 2 grants targeted to the level 50 devices. Both the Water Sports Foundation and the National Safe Boating Council has information on level 50 devices. And many of the nonprofits have safety literature, both written and digital, that is available to you from their websites. So as we know through life jacket harmonization, that the old type code devices, type 1, 2, 3, and 5, will not be going away for any time soon. Those devices will be still manufactured and available on the market, and be good for use if you have purchased one, as long as it's good and serviceable. So look at your device's owner's manual, and it'll explain what good and serviceable is. So one of the biggest differences between level devices and type code devices is that you really do need to read the label to know what that device is going to provide for you when it comes to in-water performance. So under the type code system, all type 1s is like any other type 1. Every type 2 is like every other type 2. For the level devices, especially when we start going down to the level 50 and level 70, it can have the performance, or it can have a suite of performance that gives better performance than the minimum standard is for the level, and that would be on the label. So a level 50 device or level 70 device may or may not have turning, depending on what the manufacturer has decided to do with buoyancy of that device. A level 50 device probably won't have turning no matter what, because of the size of the device, and it would then defeat the whole purpose of the level 50 device, because to increase in-water performance, you have to increase buoyancy. If you increase buoyancy, then you increase the encumbrance of the device, the heat burden of the device, the whole reason why we're trying to switch to level 50 devices, right? So if you want better performance of any device, you're giving up something. Normally you're giving up out of the water comfort of all these devices, right? Nobody complains when you fall in the water and it's cold and it's rocking and rolling, and whatever device you're wearing, you're always going to want a better device. Our problem is, especially when you're doing activities closer to the water, like stand-up paddleboarding, canoe, kayaking, is that it's usually in the summer, it's under the hottest of conditions. Nobody wants to wear neoprene or any other material over their body because you're already sweating. So you're trying to shed that heat burden and not wear your device, although the water might still be cold depending on where you're boating. So that's always been our constant battle between the perceived risk of drowning by falling into the water and the device you have to wear to keep you from drowning. First one, based on the conditions, based on your ability to tread water or swim somewhat, and how far you are from land for self-rescue, or how long you need to float around out there till you're rescued. And as consumers and as professionals, when we talk to consumers, that's the conversation you really need to have before you choose any device. And sometimes you need multiple devices. Although the smaller your vessel is, if you're on a stand-up paddleboard, you can't carry 3 devices. You're not going to wear one and carry one. So you really have to make your life jacket, PFD, buoyancy aid choice based on what you think's going to go wrong today, based on you checking the weather, based on your ability, if you're a paddler, or your, the serviceability of your boat, if you're boating, and that something's going to go wrong. And if something goes wrong and I end up in the water, how long is it till rescue? The longer to rescue, the better device you need. If you fall off your stand-up paddleboard, you fall off your kayak, or you tilt your canoe, or your boat sinks and you're close to land, you're probably going to be rescued in a matter of minutes. If you watch any video, you can see how quick it is. If you're 100 miles offshore, you need to make another decision. And if you paddle alone or you boat alone, and I especially suggest you never paddle alone, that if you're by yourself on a lake or a river and it took you an hour to get there, it's going to take rescuers just as long to get there to find you. So you have to make your life jacket PFD decisions based on, how long you think you're going to be in the water if you fall in the water. Now, one thing they have talked about is there a crosswalk between the performance of a Type 3 to the performance of level 50 or a 70. Based on the difference of those standards of the devices, it's not a one-for-one crosswalk. You can never say a level 70 device is going to perform exactly like a Type 3 device. That cross, within the standards level, you just can't do that. It's much more nuanced, and you have to really look into what the owner's manual says, what the standard says, and no consumer is going to read the standard, right? So it's up to us to explain this to the boating public. All things being equal, a Type 3 generally performs the same as a level 70. A level 50, by its design, since it provides less buoyancy than a Type 3, and this is why it's been so slow, because the federal regulations had to be changed and to allow a device with less buoyancy than that of a Type 3. The whole purpose was to give it less buoyancy. Now, it is enough buoyancy to save you in almost all situations. It will bring you to the surface. It will not turn you. So if you're comparing a Type 3 to that performance, then they are similar. As you move up the spectrum to Type 2s, Type 1s, level 100s, level 150s, you just have to read the nuances of the devices. You can never say a Type 1 is like a level 100. Now, the only caveat is if it's an ISO certified device, because it's under multiple standards, then it's probably a Type 1 is similar to a level 250. Level 250s aren't currently available in the U.S. market, and it will be quite a few years for that. Same with Type 1s and Type 2s. They're going to be around a while longer because the harmonization of those standards has yet to begin. So the most important thing when choosing your personal flotation device is to check the label. Both the legacy labels for the type devices and the new harmonized label for the level devices will provide customers, in most instances, all the information they need to make an educated choice about what device they're going to buy when faced with the decision to buy. Depending on the way you boat, you might need to do some research. You might have to have multiple personal flotation devices. But if you read the label and you understand what the label says, and in my position, the most critical thing to read is if that device turns or doesn't turn. Most of the boating public does not necessarily understand that all personal flotation devices do not turn you. Where Coast Guard regulation allows you to have any personal flotation device on board your boat, anything from a level 50 to a type 1, there's a little bit more to that when you actually fall in the water and you don't get the in-water performance that you thought you purchased. So if you need to check the label, and you have to see if that device provides turning or not. The buoyancy, now starting at level 50s up to the type 1s, obviously throughout the spectrum of the device you purchase, the higher the number of the device, the more buoyancy that you will be provided when you're in the water. One way to check that out is, try on some personal flotation devices, hop in the water and see how you personally float. That would, especially if for you and then to your children, once you try on multiple devices and see how you float in the water, then you can then apply that same methodology to your children. So you'll have a comfort level when somebody falls in the water that that device is going to perform as you thought it was going to do. This is one thing that's very important for boat operators. This is one thing that we as a community need to, when we speak to boat operators, is that they really need to understand the devices they're using. They need to take them out of the bag. If it's an inherently buoyant device, they need to put it on and jump in the water. If it's an inflatable device, that gets kind of expensive to put everybody in the water with a device, especially if you have auto inflators that are of a type that there's a increased cost to replace those inflator mechanisms. So again, read the label, make sure you understand what you're buying, and at the very least, once you buy an inherently buoyant personal flotation devices, put your children and yourself into those in sheltered waters and go see how they perform.